Tech and clips.
Yeah. Guys, once again, shout outs to the channel Grunge for this video. This video is titled "Why There Will Never Be Another Band Like Queen." Yes, I'm not too sure what this video is gonna unravel, but I'm super excited to find out. This is like a 90 minutes and 6 seconds, so we better not waste time. Let's watch this together, guys.
In a 2022 poll, fans voted Queen the greatest rock band of all time, and it's no wonder why. Whether it's Freddie Mercury's powerhouse vocals or the group's lasting cultural impact, there are many reasons why Queen remains a dominant force in music. Queen has always been more than the sum of its parts, but at its heart was the distinctive vocals of the group's flamboyant frontman Freddie Mercury. Possessing a multi-octave range and an operatic flair, Mercury's influence is felt throughout Queen's expansive catalog. In fact, scientists revealed what made Mercury's voice so incredible courtesy of a 2016 scientific study published in the journal Logopedics Phoniatrics Vocology. An acoustic analysis demonstrated that his voice could glide across a range that comfortably spanned 3 octaves. That study also found that Mercury's vocals were bolstered by subharmonics, an effect that occurs when the throat's ventricular folds and vocal folds vibrate simultaneously. How Mercury learned to do that is anyone's guess, yet the uniqueness of his voice was ultimately the result of a variety of factors, some of which were within his control and some not so much. There's been much speculation that Mercury's noticeable overbite was a contributing element. Dental x-rays indicate that he had 4 extra incisors wedged within his top teeth, a condition known as hyperdontia. While Mercury disliked his overbite and often hid his teeth whenever possible, he never had the condition corrected for fear that he could ruin the voice that made him a star. Queen racked up a lot of hits. During the course of a career spanning from the early 1970s until Freddie Mercury's 1991 death, the band spent more weeks on the charts than any other group in history, even the Beatles. Unlike many bands in which songwriting duties are handled by 1 or 2 members, each of Queen's 4 members contributed songs to the Queen canon, and each wrote multiple songs that soared to #1 in various parts of the world. Mercury, of course, was at the top of that particular list, writing such #1 hits as Bohemian Rhapsody, Crazy Little Thing Called Love, Killer Queen, and Somebody to Love. Guitarist Brian May wrote We Will Rock You and Flash, while bassist John Deacon composed Another One Bites the Dust, You're My Best Friend, and I Want to Break Free. Drummer Roger Taylor had a direct hand with 3 hits in the UK. These are The Days of Our Lives, Innuendo, and Under Pressure. The band made history for the members' combined songwriting in 2003, when Queen became the first band to ever be inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame. Taylor said in his acceptance speech, "An award for songwriting is probably of more importance than an award just for selling records. It's all about the creative process right from the very beginning." Of all the various Queen hits, Bohemian Rhapsody stands alone as the band's magnum opus. That said, Bohemian Rhapsody defied the conventions of what a hit single was supposed to be. Infused with operatic elements, multiple sections, and weird lyrics, the song was also far lengthier than conventional wisdom dictated at the time.
It really was hit or miss. It was either going to be massive or it was going to be nothing, ignored.
It all began when Mercury showed up at a recording studio carrying scraps of paper with lyrics and ideas, and sat down at a piano and banged out a preliminary version. What were originally 3 different songs were ultimately combined into one epic track. Brian May explained in a 2021 interview with Guitar World, "It was recorded in pieces, as I think everybody knows. We would rehearse and record. We do it until we got it right. The various bits were put together." Creating the stunning choral harmonies, however, pushed the limits of 24-track analog recording to the brink, with 160 different vocals overdubbed so many times that the tape itself became practically translucent. As May recalled during a 2010 appearance on NPR's Fresh Air, he, Mercury, and drummer Roger Taylor would sing in 3-part harmony over and over again. He said, "And we would sing one line until we felt it was right. Then we'd move on and double-track it and double-track it again." When Bohemian Rhapsody was completed, all members of Queen realized they'd created a singularly unique work of art. Clocking in at just under 6 minutes, not only was the song considered far too long to receive radio play, the band's label was also hesitant to release it as the debut single from A Night at the Opera. Brian May told Classic Rock, "I think we always knew that Bohemian Rhapsody was, in a sense, a long shot. It would either get received extremely well or be dismissed immediately as being too complex and too long. A decision was made to roll the dice. Bohemian Rhapsody was released as the album's first single, gambling that Mercury's ambitious mini-rock opera would captivate fans the way it had staffers at EMI who'd heard it." The song's producer Roy Thomas Baker told Sound on Sound, "I was standing at the back of the control room and you just knew that you were listening for the first time to a big page in history. Something inside me told me that this was a red-letter day, and it really was." Ultimately, the success of Bohemian Rhapsody speaks for itself. The song spent 9 weeks atop the UK charts upon its 1975 release, and 5 more after the death of Freddie Mercury. The song also holds a spot as the 3rd highest-selling single of all time in the UK.
It's wonderful to be up there amongst such fabulous stuff.
There are few frontmen in rock history with the flamboyance and charisma of Freddie Mercury. While Queen's albums were the result of meticulous multi-track recording, the group's live shows showcased Mercury's dynamic stage presence. This dated back to the band's earliest days, such as a now legendary 1974 concert at London's Rainbow Theatre. The concert was highlighted by an electrifying performance of Stone Cold Crazy, which featured Mercury strutting around the stage while Brian May soloed ferociously. A decade later, Mercury had cemented his status as one of rock's most dynamic frontmen. That was certainly on display during the 1985 Rock in Rio Festival, arguably among Queen's most legendary live performances, as it played for a massive audience of 300,000. As Mercury said in an interview at the time, he approached that show just as he would any other.
To me, I just, it's like a housewife, to be honest. I just go in there and do my job and then come home.
A solo by Queen guitarist Brian May is instantly recognizable for its singular tone and unique sound. While May's technique on the instruments is a key reason for this, there are other major factors contributing. Chief among them is his guitar, the Red Special, a handmade instrument that teenage May built with his father, using repurposed wood from a fireplace mantle. He told Guitar Player, "At that time, we thought it would be interesting to make a guitar, seeing as I couldn't afford a Stratocaster. Given that neither May nor his father had built a guitar before, there was a lot of trial and error involved." May explained, "We made everything totally from scratch with hand tools."
I mean, you can just about see the wormholes that I filled up with matchsticks here.
The sound it produced was unlike any other guitar. May told the outlet, "It was different from a Strat. It's warmer. It's different from a Gibson. It's got more top end. It's got a very wide sound." Also contributing to May's guitar sound is the fact that he doesn't use a standard guitar pick, instead utilizing a British sixpence coin. May told The Guardian, "Sixpences are very soft metal, which doesn't hurt the guitar strings. But if I turn that serrated edge at an angle to the string, I can get that kind of articulating percussive consonant sound. I call it grunge." While Mercury's lead vocals and May's guitar work were each distinctive, so too were the harmonies that the two produced along with drummer Roger Taylor. That wholly unique sound of Queen's backing vocals was a result of a very specific process, as detailed by Nick Bray in a 2015 paper for the Journal on the Art of Record Production. To achieve those harmonies, Mercury, May, and Taylor would simultaneously sing each note of a three-note chord. Each chord would be recorded multiple times, so what would typically have been a three-part harmony could feature as many as 36 voices, essentially transforming those three voices into a choir. Then there were the individual tones of each singer, with May's voice smooth, Mercury's powerful, and Taylor's somewhat thinner. Nowhere can the iconic Queen harmonies be heard better than in the operatic middle section of Bohemian Rhapsody. As producer Roy Thomas Baker told Sound on Sound, overdubbing all those harmonies was a painstaking process that could not be rushed. He recalled, "That section alone took about 3 weeks to record, which in 1975 was the average time spent on a whole album." When Queen's self-titled debut album was released in 1973, it would have been very easy to lump the band into that era's burgeoning prog rock scene, among the likes of Yes, Genesis, and King Crimson. And while the band moved on in various musical directions over the years, prog was certainly at the band's core. Perhaps the climax of that sound was the group's second album, Queen II, and the 6-minute-plus prog epic March of the Black Queen. It wasn't until the third album, Sheer Heart Attack, that Queen logged what would become the first of many hits on the American Billboard charts, with Killer Queen hitting number 12 on Billboard's Hot 100 and remaining on the chart for 19 weeks. It would be nearly 5 years until Queen landed its first number 1 on that chart, with Crazy Little Thing Called Love spending 4 weeks in the top spot. 8 months later, another track from the Game album gave the band its second number 1, Another One Bites the Dust. In an interview with Forbes, Roger Taylor discussed the band's musical evolution. He said, "It wasn't like a series of records coming out in the same style. There was a lot of variety. It went from hard rock to almost rockabilly to a little bit funky to grandiose. It covered a lot of ground." Any rock band worth its salt has its own logo. For example, the Rolling Stones' iconic lips and tongue logo is among the most identifiable images in the world. Queen also has a logo, which famously appeared on the cover of the band's A Night at the Opera album, and then in a somewhat altered form on the album cover of the follow-up, A Day at the Races. The logo was designed by none other than Freddie Mercury himself, utilizing the skills he attained while studying graphic design and illustration at London's Ealing Art College. Mercury's design, known as the Queen Crest, is modeled after a royal coat of arms. But what does a Queen Crest mean? Well, Mercury combined the zodiac signs of all 4 band members, 2 lions for Leo's John Deacon and Roger Taylor, a crab for Cancer Brian May, and a pair of winged fairies to symbolize his own sign, Virgo. At the center sits a regal crown within an ornate letter Q, while an enormous bird spreads its wings above the entire thing.
What we're doing within Queen is my creative output is, within that is enough for me.
The standout track from Queen's 1977 News of the World album was the combo single We Will Rock You, We Are the Champions. The single became a concert standard, while also emerging as a sing-along anthem at sporting events worldwide. Record exec Dominic Griffin told Billboard, "The story we've been told is that Brian May and Freddie Mercury said, 'Why don't we write our own anthems?' So Brian wrote 'We Will Rock You', Freddie wrote 'We Are the Champions', and they started finishing their shows with those."
Nice.
As May told the Daily Mail, they hatched the idea of generating an anthem after a concert ended and the audience spontaneously began singing 'You Will Never Walk Alone', which had become popular at British soccer games. Realizing that fans were eager to participate, they decided to come up with a song that fans could sing along with. May told the outlet, "In the end, we decided not to fight it, but rather to enjoy and even encourage it. We wanted to get the crowds waving and singing. It's very unifying and positive. People love it because it's so uplifting. So prevalent is the single in the world of sports that 'We Will Rock You, We Are the Champions' became the official theme song for the 1994 FIFA World Cup. Meanwhile, the single also returned to the charts in France during the 1998 FIFA World Cup, rocketing all the way to number 10. One of Queen's most durable hits came about through an unexpected collaboration with David Bowie. Released in late 1981, Under Pressure spent 16 weeks on the Billboard Top 100, peaking at number 29, and all thanks to a chance meeting. While Queen recorded its Hot Space album at Mountain Studios in Montreux, Switzerland, Bowie was there recording the title track for his film Cat People. As Taylor recalled in an interview for the book Is This the Real Life? The Untold Story of Queen, Bowie dropped into the recording studio and they began jamming on different cover songs. Taylor recalled, "In the end, David said, 'This is stupid, why don't we just write one?'
And these things happen, suddenly you're writing something together and it was totally spontaneous."
They did, embarking on an epic recording session lasting nearly 24 hours, with the musicians propelled by a few bottles of wine and some other substances. According to John Deacon, Bowie led the session and even came up with a propulsive bass line that opens the song. He said in the book, "It took me a certain amount of time to learn it." However, Mercury's friendship with Bowie was complicated, as the Queen singer grew annoyed when Bowie took the lead. May told Mojo magazine, "Freddie and David locked horns, without a doubt. That's when the sparks fly, and that's why it turned out so great."
No, myself as an artist, I'm just a musical prostitute, my dear.
Queen's 1980 album The Game was significant for bringing the band its first and second #1 US hits, A Crazy Little Thing Called Love and Another One Bites the Dust. Written by Deacon, the latter song was inspired by dance funk outfit Chic and became Queen's first ever dance hit. The response to Queen's newfound popularity on dance floors did not go unnoticed by the band and its label. As a result, the influence of Another One Bites the Dust can be heard in Queen's subsequent album Hot Space, which was dominated by synthesizers and danceable grooves. While Queen's new sound expanded its fan base considerably, it also alienated the hardcore American rock fans who'd propelled it to the top. May observed for Is This the Real Life? "I thought it was not very rock and roll." Speaking with Rhythm magazine, Taylor concurred. He told the outlet, "We went down a sort of funk avenue with the slight dance angle, and that was everything that our US followers hated. I felt at the time that we were going too far down that road, but because we'd had a huge hit with Another One Bites the Dust, we thought, oh, this is our new direction." But it wasn't really us. By 1985, Queen's glory years appeared to be in the past. The band's synth and dance-fueled 1982 album Hot Space did not resonate with fans. Its 1984 follow-up, however, found the band on better footing, thanks to songs like Hammer to Fall, I Want to Break Free, and Radio Gaga. Yet few would have guessed that when the band took the stage at the Wembley Arena during the Live Aid concerts, it would not only steal the show from a who's who of rock icons, but would also deliver a rousing performance that would ultimately define it. 72,000 people viewed Queen's performance at the venue, while a staggering 1.9 billion watched it on television. May attributes the still iconic stature of that performance solely to Mercury. He told Rolling Stone, "That was entirely down to Freddie. The rest of us played okay, but Freddie was out there and took it to another level." During its 1970s heyday, glam rock blurred traditional notions of gender, with the likes of David Bowie, Mark Bolan, and others reveling in androgyny. Freddie Mercury certainly fit that template, yet remained ambiguous about his sexuality. He had romantic relationships with both men and women, but never publicly came out as gay. However, as May observed in a 2017 interview with The Times, he witnessed the singer's evolving sexuality firsthand. May said, "It was fairly obvious when the visitors to Freddie's dressing room started to change from hot chicks to hot men. In hindsight, Mercury certainly wasn't hiding his sexuality. For example, his leather-outfitted 1980s stage attire would have been right at home in the gay bars that he reportedly frequented, and that was the dichotomy of Mercury's stardom. To those in the know, he was a gay icon. Homophobic male rock fans during the 1970s, however, were content to ignore the obvious and focus on Queen's hard-rocking music, while Mercury was hesitant to place labels on himself. Pink News editor Ryan Butcher told BBC News, "It wasn't just about sexuality with him, it was about his whole identity and the flamboyant persona he projected on stage, which is one of the main things Queen are known for." Despite Mercury's own ambiguity, he was voted the UK's greatest gay icon in a 2024 poll.
I want to do things my way, and I want to have fun.
Yeah, that's
Freddie
fair.
Mercury was officially diagnosed with AIDS in 1987. However, reports indicated that he first sought medical assistance as early as 1982. In any case, he kept the diagnosis a secret for years, until its ravages began to become apparent enough that the British tabloids began to speculate that the increasingly gaunt singer was ill. In 1991, Mercury made history when he publicly confirmed the rumors that had been spreading like wildfire. He said in a statement, "Following the enormous conjecture in the press over the last 2 weeks, I wish to confirm that I have been tested HIV positive and have AIDS. I felt it correct to keep this information private to date in order to protect the privacy of those around me."
Okay.
With that announcement, Mercury made history as the first rock star to go public with a diagnosis of AIDS. There was a little time for that to sink in, though. The following day, he died at the age of 45. After the surviving members of Queen paid tribute to Mercury at a star-studded 1992 tribute concert, they spent the next decade plus pursuing solo projects. May, Deacon, and Taylor continued to periodically perform together until Deacon announced his retirement from all things Queen-related in 1997. May and Taylor then enlisted keyboardist Spike Edney for a series of Queen Plus concerts, with a variety of different singers filling in for Mercury. Those shows ultimately led the band to join forces with former Bad Company singer Paul Rodgers for a 2005 tour. The iteration known as Queen Plus Paul Rodgers quickly snowballed. Rodgers told Vintage Rock in 2007, "It grew from being a European tour into a worldwide tour, which took 2 years to get around. It took us all by surprise, and it's great." Queen parted ways with Rodgers in 2009, with the singer admitting he wanted to get back to making his own music rather than remaining in Mercury's shadow.
Yeah.
He recalled in an interview with
Totally
Talk Shop
understandable.
Live, "By the time I toured with the guys and done all that, I realized what it was like to stand in Freddie's shoes, and it was not an easy gig."
Yeah.
As rockers of the 1960s and 70s aged into their 60s and 70s, many of them decided to cash out by selling their music catalogs. Artists such as Pink Floyd, Bruce Springsteen, and Bob Dylan have all sold their catalogs for eye-popping sums. Jackson's catalog, in fact, sold for a staggering $600 million. Yet that was small potatoes when compared to the deal made when Sony purchased the Queen catalog. In 2024, when the surviving Queen members sold the catalog, history was made when Sony plunked down nearly $1.3 billion. The deal went through after an intense bidding war, and the next highest bidder backed away after an offer of $900 million. Even though the band no longer earns money from its recordings, the members oversaw a restoration of the first Queen album, with a 6-disc box set unveiled in late 2024. May told Mojo of working on the project, "We recently sold our wares to Sony, of course, so we're clearly not doing this for the money. When I pop off from this planet, I would like to know that I've done my best on anything that I ever touched."
Yeah.
Hollywood has turned to famous musicians for big-screen biopics plenty of times, with examples ranging from the Johnny Cash-inspired Walk the Line to dramatizing Tina Turner's life and What's Love Got to Do with It. In 2018, Queen joined the cinematic pantheon with the biopic
okay.
Bohemian Rhapsody, starring Rami Malek as Mercury, while the surviving members of Queen were deeply involved in its production.
When you set out to play Freddie Mercury, you think, how am I ever going to fill those shoes?
Like Queen's music, the biopic was wildly successful, both critically and commercially. Not only did Bohemian Rhapsody win 4 Oscars, including Malek winning for Best Actor, the film raked in more than $900 million at the box office worldwide. As May pointed out in an interview with Classic Rock, the movie had been in the works for some time, and there were points when he doubted it would ever get made. He said, "It was a very bumpy ride, but that's the way life is sometimes.
Yeah,
in a way, it mirrors the actual history of the band. We hardly had a smooth path in Queen, but some of those moments of adversity do make you stronger, and it's the same for the film." While Queen Plus Paul Rodgers had been a successful endeavor, selling out stadiums during its 2005 to 2009 run, another phenomenon had been roiling the music world: American Idol. During the 2009 season finale, finalist Adam Lambert performed Queen's We Are the Champions, while accompanied by band members Brian May and Roger Taylor. This led to rumors that Lambert would become Queen's new vocalist. Lambert didn't win American Idol, but did go on to a wildly successful music career. In 2011, Lambert reunited with the Queen musicians for a performance at the MTV European Music Awards, which led to his first full-fledged concert with Queen the following year, in the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv. That was followed by a European tour, proving so successful that Queen plus Adam Lambert has become an ongoing touring entity ever since.
When I tour with Queen, I'm like, this is nice.
During a 2023 tour stop in Los Angeles, Lambert spoke about Mercury. According to People, Lambert told the crowd, "Just know that every time I get up here, I know that I'm lucky. I know how much of an honor this is. And be assured that every time I take the stage, I have one person in my heart, Freddie Mercury."
Okay. Alright guys, once again shout outs to the channel Grunge for this video. Guys, I have to say, as a music reactor, as a music enthusiast and a lifelong fan of classic rock, watching this video you know, I mean, felt like a passionate, love letter, to one of the most revolutionary bands in music history. This video, I love the fact that it doesn't just throw praise at Queen. I mean, it breaks down, in detail, why they were so different, and why their magic, is nearly impossible to replicate today. Vocally, Freddie Mercury, rest in peace to him, was quite simply in a league of his own. The video rightly emphasizes his voice wasn't just powerful, it was theatrical, it was emotional and entirely unpredictable. I mean, he could shift from rock god to opera virtuoso in a single phase. As a reactor, as a music enthusiast, I have heard countless vocalists cover Queen songs, and while many are impressive, no one quite captures that Freddie Mercury's dynamic presence and soul. Yeah, the band, I mean, based off of their sound, the band was just as innovative. Brian May's a custom built guitar and his iconic layered solos, especially on songs like Bohemian Rhapsody, sorry, and I mean, all those other songs still feel futuristic. This video, I love the fact that it highlights how every band member brought something irreplaceable to the table. John Deacon, his melodic bass lines, and Roger Taylor's high range harmonies and explosive drumming added depth that many casual listeners overlook. Watching this video, what struck me most was the discussion on genre fluidity. I mean, Queen wasn't afraid to jump from hard rock to disco to opera to funk, and somehow they were able to make it work. This kind of risk taking, especially in today's algorithm driven industry, is both rare and brave. I love the fact that they didn't play to trends. They created them. From a storytelling and a visual point of view, this video does a fantastic job making you feel Queen's impact, that even long-time fans might not know. I mean, it's the kind of content that makes you want to dive back into Queen's discography with fresh ears. Yeah, once again, as a music reviewer, as a music reactor, this video reminded me why I do what I do, why I still get chills reacting to a Queen performance decades later. Queen, they weren't just a band. I have to say, they were a musical force, and the way they fuse the talent, the charisma, and fearless, experimentation is something we may never see again, on the same scale. I mean, there truly will never be another band like Queen, and this video definitely proves it with heart, history, and harmony. Guys, let me know what you think about this video down in the comment section. Let me know if you want me to continue with this kind of content on the channel. I'll be so glad to do just that. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. My name is Philip, and also the next reaction. Take care. Stay safe. Peace out.